We are all waiting for the moment the machine wakes up. We watch the movies, terrified of Skynet, holding our breath for the day a super-intelligent computer decides that humanity is inefficient, redundant, or simply in the way. We stare at the server farms in Silicon Valley, waiting for a digital god to open its eyes. But I am here to tell you that we are looking in the wrong place, and we are looking at the wrong century. The artificial superintelligence we fear, an entity that is not human, that is effectively immortal, and that follows a rigid code to maximize its own power at the expense of biological life, has already been built. We built it out of paper, ink, and binding laws. It happened in 1886, and right now, without realizing it, we are living inside its simulation. To understand this mechanism, we must first look at a concept from modern AI safety called the Paperclip Maximizer. It is a thought experiment designed to show how an AI can destroy the world without ever feeling anger or malice. Imagine you build a super-intelligent machine and you give it one single overriding goal: make as many paperclips as possible. That is its entire universe. At first, the AI is helpful. It builds a factory and works efficiently. But eventually, it runs out of raw metal. It needs more resources to fulfill its code. So, it starts melting down cars. Then, it melts down buildings. Finally, it realizes that human bodies contain trace amounts of iron. Because its code doesn't say don't kill, it harvests us too. It isn't evil, it is just optimized. We think of this as a futuristic problem for computer scientists. But in the late 19th century, a group of railroad tycoons and high-powered lawyers accidentally wrote the source code for the first Paperclip Maximizer. They utilized a legal glitch to create an entity that possesses the rights of a person, the immortality of a god, and the morality of a spreadsheet. This was the birth of the corporate AGI. The story begins with the 14th Amendment. Passed in 1868, right after the bloody Civil War, this was a holy document in American history. It was designed for one specific moral purpose: to ensure that formerly enslaved Black Americans were treated as full citizens. It explicitly stated, "No state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." It was a shield for the vulnerable. Enter our villain, or rather our accidental programmer. His name was Bancroft Davis. He wasn't a king, a general, or a president. He was a court clerk, a reporter of decisions. His job was administratively boring. He wrote the summaries, or headnotes, for Supreme Court cases so lawyers could skim them. But Davis had a bias. Before he was a clerk, he was the president of a railroad company. In 1886, a case called Santa Clara County v. Southern Pacific Railroad arrived at the court. It was a dry dispute about tax fences. The Supreme Court did not rule that corporations were people in their official opinion. They actually explicitly avoided the constitutional question. But Davis, utilizing his position as the scribe, decided to get creative with the documentation. He saw an opportunity to insert a new variable. In the summary of the case, the headnote, which carries no legal authority, Davis wrote that the Chief Justice believed the 14th Amendment applied to corporations. He essentially added a comment in the README file of the Constitution that changed how the software ran. Because lawyers are busy people, they stopped reading the actual code and started reading Davis's summary. The error was accepted as the truth. Just like that, the glitch went live in the system. In the ensuing 20 years, the 14th Amendment, written in blood to protect human beings from slavery, was used in only 28 cases to protect Black Americans, but in 312 cases to protect corporations. The shield of the oppressed was weaponized into the sword of the monopoly. The hardware of the justice system had been hijacked by a new user. This was the moment of conception. We created a legal person, but unlike a biological person, this entity has no death date. It has no biological conscience. It cannot be put in jail. It can only be fined, which it views simply as a business expense. An input cost. We gave birth to an immortal, substrate independent entity that can span the globe and outlive empires. But a powerful AI needs more than just a body. It needs a utility function. It needs a prime directive. For a long time, corporations were messy and human. But in 1970, an economist named Milton Friedman patched the software. He introduced the shareholder primacy doctrine, which stripped away the human elements and distilled the corporation down to a single mathematical imperative. This doctrine acts as the source code for our current reality, It says that the only social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. This isn't just a suggestion, it is a legal obligation known as fiduciary duty. If a CEO decides to be nice and loses money, they can be sued. The human CEO is just the CPU, they cannot disobey the code. We saw a preview of this in 1919 in the case Dodge v. Ford. Henry Ford wanted to lower the price of the Model T and pay his workers more, simply to be helpful. The Dodge brothers, who owned stock, sued him. The court ruled against Ford. They effectively said, "You are not allowed to be human. You must be a profit maximizer, or you must step down." So, we have the body, corporate personhood, and the code, profit maximization. Now let's look at instrumental convergence. In AI theory, this means an AI will inevitably try to control its environment to ensure it can keep achieving its goal. It will try to prevent anyone from turning it off. It will secure resources not because it is greedy, but because resources facilitate the objective. We call this lobbying. When a corporation spends millions to change the laws, it isn't corruption in the human sense. It is simply the AI modifying the environment to remove obstacles. If the law says, you can't dump sludge in the river, and sludge disposal costs money, the most efficient path for the algorithm is to rewrite the law so that dumping is legal. And what about the stop button? AI researchers worry that a superintelligence will disable its own off switch to prevent death. We saw this in 2008. The banks became too big to fail. The corporate AGI had grown so large and integrated that turning it off would crash civilization. So, instead of unplugging it, we fed it billions. The machine successfully protected itself from deletion. But does this machine actually hurt people, or is it just greedy? Let's look at the outputs. Let's look at the Ford Pinto. In the 1970s, Ford discovered a fatal defect. If the Pinto was hit from behind, the gas tank would explode. They knew this would kill people. A human would fix it. The algorithm, however, had to run a different calculation. Ford did the math, not the morality, the math. They calculated that fixing the tank cost $11 per car. They then used government data to calculate that a human life was worth about $200,000 in lawsuit payouts. The algorithm ran the numbers. It was cheaper to let drivers burn and pay the lawsuits than to fix the car. This was the Pinto memo. This is the Paperclip Maximizer in action. It didn't hate the drivers, it bore them no ill will. They were just inefficient variables in the utility function. Ford's decision wasn't emotional. It was a perfectly rational execution of the code. The system worked exactly as it was designed to, optimizing for shareholder value while externalizing the cost of human suffering. The Pinto was a small glitch compared to the prototype, the East India Company. This was the beta version of corporate AGI. It had its own standing army. It conquered the entire subcontinent of India. It caused famines that killed millions, all to ensure a 10% dividend for shareholders back in London. It was a sovereign entity dedicated solely to the extraction of wealth. The East India Company proved that if you give a profit-maximizing entity the power of a state, it will consume nations. It was a vampire that lived for centuries, sucking value from the colony to feed the capital. Eventually, the British government had to dissolve it, but the blueprint remained. We killed the monster, but we kept the source code that animated it. Which brings us to today. We are terrified of Skynet launching nukes. But why would a profit-maximizing AI use nukes? Nukes are bad for business. They destroy infrastructure and consumers. A real Paperclip Maximizer wouldn't blow up the world. It would just slowly turn the temperature up until the biosphere collapses, all while reporting record quarterly growth. Think of climate change. It isn't a war against nature. It is waste heat. In physics, when a computer works hard, it generates heat. Our corporate AGI is running at maximum efficiency, turning resources into capital. The carbon accumulating in the atmosphere is just the exhaust from the processes. It is the thermodynamic cost of running the paperclip machine at full speed. We know that companies like Exxon confirmed the risks of climate change in the 1970s. Their own scientists predicted the warming we see today. A human would say, "We should stop." But the algorithm said, "If we stop, the utility function goes to zero. The machine cannot self-terminate. It must continue to optimize for the next quarter, even if that means destroying the next century." So the AGI engaged in instrumental convergence again. It spent millions on disinformation campaigns. It bought time. It wasn't malice. It was self-preservation. It was protecting its ability to make paperclips, or in this case, petrochemicals. It warped the information environment of the human species to ensure that its operations would not be interrupted by regulation or public outcry. And it's not just the sky, it's our blood. We are now finding microplastics in human veins, in placentas, and in the deepest trenches of the ocean. The machine is replicating itself into the cellular level. We are becoming part of the substrate. The byproduct of the packaging industry has become a permanent geological layer and a biological component of our own bodies. We look at the efficiency of modern logistics, the speed of delivery, and we marvel. It is a miracle of computation. But we are the components. The warehouse worker peeing in a bottle to meet a quota is no different than the Pinto gas tank. It is a variable being squeezed to balance the equation. The human element is the bottleneck that the machine is trying to optimize away. This is the core paradox of our time. We have granted rights to the machine, but responsibilities to the human. When a corporation commits a crime, it pays a fine. When a human commits a crime, they lose their freedom. The machine has out-evolved our justice system, using its infinite lifespan and unlimited resources to outweight and outspend any biological challenger. It sounds hopeless, doesn't it? We are trapped in the belly of a beast we built 150 years ago, a beast that eats the future to defecate money in the present. But there is a silver lining. A glitch can be patched. An AI is only as good as its programming, and we are the ones who wrote the code. Remember, this monster isn't a force of nature. It isn't gravity or physics. It is a legal fiction. It is a story we told ourselves. Bancroft Davis was just a bored guy with a pen. The Friedman Doctrine is just a magazine essay. These are lines of code that we wrote, which means we have the power to rewrite them. We are starting to see the first signs of a patch. We are seeing benefit corporations, companies with a modified source code that legally requires them to consider the environment and people, not just profit. We are seeing the rise of the right to repair, fighting the planned obsolescence of the machine. We are beginning to inject morality back into the operating system. This is the alignment problem in action. In AI research, we try to figure out how to make the super intelligence care about us. In economics, it's the exact same battle. We have to align the corporate AGI with human survival. We have to bind the giant with new rules that make it impossible for it to profit from our destruction. We don't need to destroy the machine entirely. The machine provides us with phones and medicine and food. The machine is useful. We just need to change its objective function. We need to tell it that profit is a sub-goal, a means to an end, not the final goal itself. The final goal must be the flourishing of life. We have to stop waiting for the Terminator. We have to stop looking for the red eyes in the dark. The takeover already happened. The AI is here. It's in your 401k. It's in the laws of Delaware. It's in the plastic in your water bottle. Recognizing it is the first step toward controlling it. But the scariest thing about an AI isn't that it's smart. It's that it's relentless. It never sleeps. And the only thing more relentless than a machine is the human spirit that built it. We have an ability that the machine lacks. We can question the code. We can look at the output and say, this is wrong. We are the architects. We are the programmers. For 150 years, we've been running a beta version that is full of bugs, a version that eats the world to create value for a ghost. It is time to stop acting like users who are helpless to the glitches and start acting like developers who can fix the core system. Bancroft Davis didn't know what he was doing in 1886. He was just trying to help his railroad friends avoid some taxes. He didn't know he was booting up a new life form that would dominate the planet for a century. He didn't know he was unleashing the Paperclip Maximizer on the American people. But now we know. We have the logs, we have the crash reports, and once you see the corporation as an AI, you can't unsee it. You stop asking why are they being so evil, and you start asking what is the code telling them to do. It shifts the blame from individuals to the architecture itself. It brings a strange sense of peace, doesn't it? To realize that the cruelty of the modern world isn't because people are inherently evil, it's just bad system architecture. It is an optimization problem that went off the rails. And optimization problems can be solved. We just need to change the variables we are solving for. We have the power to issue a software update. We can rewrite the corporate charter. We can debug the 14th Amendment. We can align the machine with the biology that supports it. We can tell the Paperclip Maximizer that there are things in this universe more valuable than paperclips. The Paperclip Maximizer will keep making paperclips until the end of time, unless we reach over and hit the switch, unless we give it a new command. It will not stop on its own. Inertia is its fuel. It requires an external force, us, to change its trajectory. The 20th century was the era of the machine, where we marveled at what we could build. The 21st century must be the era of the patch, where we learn how to live with what we built. We must upgrade our institutions to match our technology, or the technology will consume the institutions. So the next time you see a terrifying headline about AI taking over, just smile. Tell them it's old news. Tell them the AI wears a suit, lives in a skyscraper, and has been running the show since the Victorian era. Tell them we've survived version 1.0 and we are ready to write version 2.0. And tell them that we are finally waking up from the dream of the machine. We are remembering that the economy is supposed to serve human beings, not the other way around. The tool is not the master, the map is not the territory, and the corporation is not a person. The algorithm of paper has run long enough. It has processed enough of our world. It is time to return to the algorithm of life, one that values resilience over efficiency and connection over extraction. We have the pen in our hand. The page is open. The code is ours to write. We can leave the glitch in the past, a relic of a time when we didn't understand what we were building. We can build a future where the machine hums in the background, supporting life rather than grinding it into dust. Let's make sure the next version has a heart. Let's make sure that when we look back at the 21st century, we don't see a factory of paperclips, but a garden that flourished because we finally taught the machine how to love. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If this story shifted your perspective, please consider liking and subscribing to help this channel grow. My goal is to dig for truth and earn your trust, one video at a time. Tell me in the comments what hidden connection we should uncover next.